it's time for me to film something special. I'm gonna do a vlog on why I said yes. I think it's time you knew a little bit about my relationship with Alice and a little bit about our history, at least from my perspective. Alice doesn't know I'm doing this, so I hope she's okay with it. I met Alice 6.5 years ago. As I mentioned, our wedding date, well, maybe you guys don't know our wedding date yet. It's June 20th. Yes, only 6 months away, or 5.5 months away. I'm kind of freaking out. I met Alice at a vulnerable time in both of our lives. I had just gotten out of a very serious relationship with another woman. I really thought that that was going to be my lifetime relationship. She had 3 biological children, all of which were younger than Jessica was at the time. Hi, Sky. See, she's such a therapy dog. I'm talking about something sad, and Sky came over to give me love. She knows that it's hard when I talk about the children involved in that relationship, because ending that relationship, the end of that relationship, was very hard on me. And the last thing I was ready for at the time that I met Alice was the start of a new relationship. And it was a vulnerable time for me, but also Alice. We were at a time in our lives when starting a relationship for either of us was not really a good thing. We just happened to meet at that time, and while there was an initial attraction and a friendship grew at that time, we quickly learned that getting into anything beyond that was probably not going to be healthy. So while it's hard, because there's a lot I could say right now about what was going on in our lives at that time. But the truth is that there's a time and place to talk about specifics of our private lives individually, and especially on the YouTube community. And I don't think that this is necessarily the time for Alice and I to spill every bean in our lives to the YouTube community. So please forgive me for not telling every specific of our personal private lives to you about things that are not necessarily relevant to what was going on in terms of me and Alice getting together. What happened with Alice and I is we moved in together soon after meeting, several months after meeting, and but we quickly learned that our relationship was going to be more as best friends, so that we could be working on ourselves individually than as lifetime partners, even though there was that underlying piece of us that knew that there was a love there that made us family. And I'm going to talk about Jessica a little bit in this. Jessica was very apprehensive to my moving in. Well, we actually moved all in together into a new place, but she was apprehensive to leave her childhood home of hers and her mom's into what became our first home together. It was a very nice home. Hi, Sky. A very nice home for all of us to be moving into together, with our dual incomes and everything. We could afford something a little nicer, keeping Jessica in her same school district and everything like that. But she didn't necessarily like having a second adult in her home. I don't know how much of it was that it was a second female versus male. Alice had just come out to Jessica a couple years prior, but Jessica didn't like me so much at first. I don't think it was a personal thing about me, Michelle. I think it was just the fact that her mom was getting involved with another person, and Jessica had always had her mom pretty much to herself. But within the first 6 months of all of us kind of being together as a family, Jessica really started to warm up to me. And by that all started over the summer of 2008. And by the Christmas time, we went on a road trip and we went down to New Orleans. And while there was still a little bit of that angst against me by Jessica, we had a wonderful trip together as a family. So while Alice and I were really independently working on things about ourselves, and our relationship was not necessarily going to become something where we were going to get married at that time or anything like that, we were a family, and Jessica had come to accept me as part of that. And there was always this really good kind of underlying love. But what happened is that I had a lot of stuff to be working on for myself. And one of those things was that career-wise, I needed to develop where I wanted to go in my future. I actually have a Juris Doctorate from my prior life, so a law degree, and I'd been teaching for many years, and loved higher education, loved everything about school, and wanted to become a professor. And when I started to look at where I wanted to go back to school, Michigan State really came to the forefront of where I wanted to do that. And I knew that meant I had to pick up and kind of leave Alice and Jessica while Jessica finished her high school. And I didn't know what that would mean in the future for my relationship with Alice. But part of being mature and in a relationship and is that Alice and I accepted at that point we were best friends and we loved each other, but maybe at the time we had accepted maybe our futures weren't going to be together. And you know that old saying, if you love somebody, let them go. If they come back to you, they're yours forever. If they don't, they were never yours to begin with. I kind of think of our relationship as that, because we went our separate ways, but our underlying love and that commitment and that friendship and that caring never went away. And I had some hard times fall upon me after 2010, both health-wise and in other ways. And the kind of love and support that Alice showed me is the kind of unbelievable love and support every person deserves in their lives. And I know that I can never imagine living my life without that and without Alice in it. And maybe it took me a long time to come around to see that I want to spend the rest of my life with Alice. But I'm glad for the journey of the 6+ years that it's taken, because at this point I can't imagine anything ever severing that tie. Everybody in every relationship comes together in different ways, but for us to have had that period of time for us to grow as individuals, and for us to have developed such a deep relationship prior to where we're heading now, and now that we're getting married, not having chosen the forever right at the beginning, I think will make it so that we're not going to be a statistic for divorce. We're not going to be cheating on each other. We know what we have. We know how special it is, and we've already gotten through some of the toughest things that life has to bring to us. So I feel so fortunate to have found my soulmate. And 6.5 years ago, when Alice and I were just new and we're in that puppy love stage, when we were just kind of flirting with everything, a song played on the radio, and I said to her, I love this song, and she said, I love this song. And it was Hero by Enrique Iglesias. And I texted her, I think, that night or something, and I told her, one day we will dance to that song in our wedding. And so I'm now pleased to know that I'm going to dance to her, to the song Hero by Enrique Iglesias at our wedding. And it's going to be 7 years after that date. And everybody has their own journey. But I think the journey of mine and Alice's romance is its own journey. And it's happened over a long period of time, over a lot of speed bumps that have had to happen to ensure that our relationship is as strong as it needs to be, so that we are the couple that we need to be to have our everlasting togetherness. And so I'm happy to share that with you so that you know why I said yes and why this is so important to me and why I am so happy to be walking down the aisle on June 20th, 2015 with Alice. So thank you for letting me share that with you. Anything else you want to say, Sky? And we adopted Sky together 6.5 years ago, just a couple weeks after we met, because that was a good thing. Thanks, everybody. Love you.